"Sir, you need to come with us." The voice wasn't angry. It wasn't even loud, but it cut through the cabin like a blade. Dr. Elias Monroe, 64, looked up from his seat in 2A, first class, still holding his unopened copy of The Atlantic. Two uniformed airline security officers stood over him, their postures tight, faces blank. Behind them hovered a flight attendant in navy blue, arms folded, lips pressed into something like a smile. All eyes turned toward him, and suddenly the entire aircraft felt like it held its breath. "I believe there's been a mistake," Elias said calmly, voice low, tone measured. He held up his boarding pass. "This is my seat." The flight attendant stepped forward. Her name tag read Kelsey. "Yes, sir, but this seat has been reassigned. Mr. Richard Whitley is now in 2A. You've been moved to 8C. Elias didn't blink. "And why was that decision made?" She hesitated for half a second. "Mr. Whitley is a priority executive guest. It's airline policy to accommodate platinum-tier partners. So, I paid for this seat. I was boarded early, and now I'm being asked to leave it for someone who just walked in 5 minutes ago?" The security officer on the left cleared his throat. "Sir, we don't want this to escalate. Please collect your belongings." Elias sat still. The moment stretched. Behind him, someone shifted uncomfortably in their seat. A phone screen lit up quietly in row 2C. Someone was recording. Good. He looked up at the security officer and spoke evenly. "You're asking me to surrender my paid seat to a white man who showed up late simply because he's a priority guest, while I, a paying passenger, am being treated like an intruder in first class?" Kelsey's smile thinned. "We're asking for your cooperation, sir." Someone near the back muttered, "That's not right." But no one stood up. "Tell us where you're watching from, and if this happened in front of you, what would you do?" Elias exhaled, slow and steady. Then he stood, not hurried, not rattled, just upright. He collected his briefcase, nodded at the two officers, and made the slow, deliberate walk to row 8C. Economy Plus. He passed Whitley on the way, a man in a pale cream suit with slicked back hair and a glass of champagne already in hand. Whitley didn't make eye contact, didn't nod, didn't even blink. He just slid into 2A like it was his by birthright. Elias sat down in 8C, legs folded, briefcase tucked neatly under the seat. The woman beside him, mid-30s, earbuds in, looked up at him with a mix of sympathy and discomfort. He said nothing, didn't reach for water, didn't open his book. He reached into the inside pocket of his tailored navy blazer and pulled out a second phone, matte black, with no logos. Not his personal device. This one connected to a secure satellite line. It was built for one purpose: oversight. Sky Shield Protocol, his creation. He tapped into it. User verified, Dr. Elias Monroe. Clearance level 1A, incident report. Interface, live. Initiate, airline ethics violation. Flight 611, Aurelia Air. Elias didn't yell. He didn't call for the supervisor. He typed, methodically, precisely. He uploaded the video from row 2C, the one where Kelsey's words were crystal clear, where his calm was measured, where her tone, not so professional. Sky Shield began cross-referencing instantly. Matching crew IDs, 3 prior bias-related incidents in past 18 months. Pattern match. Confidence, 88.3%. Flag behavior for Tier 2 review passenger impact index, 7.2 out of 10. Recommendation. Red flag, effective immediately. Elias pressed one button. Execute, suspend route expansion review. Aurelia Air flag, submitted to FAA Regulatory Ethics Division, notified airports, JFK, ATL, CA, LAX, DFW, O'Hare, Logan, Reagan, Charlotte, Phoenix, Denver, San Francisco. A blinking confirmation appeared. Sky Shield activation, confirmed 12 airports now monitoring Aurelia Air flights in real time, passenger ethics index, pending sign-off. He placed the phone back in his jacket, closed his eyes, rested his head back against the seat. He didn't smile. 2 hours later, as the plane taxied toward the terminal in Seattle, Elias opened his briefcase for the first time. Inside was a 300-page report. Title: Passenger Ethics Index. Mandatory adoption proposal for all FAA-certified carriers. Subtitle: A Sky Shield Protocol Framework by Dr. Elias Monroe. He flipped to the final page. There was a blank signature line at the bottom. He clicked the pen in his jacket pocket and signed. By the time the plane doors opened, 3 other major airlines had already received automated notifications. Their contracts were now under review. FAA's Ethics Liaison Division had been pinged 46 times in the last 37 minutes. 12 airports received internal memos not to process route requests from Aurelia Air until further notice. All because one man, with the calm of a judge and the precision of an engineer, had pressed one button. He stepped off the plane quietly, walking past the first-class cabin where Whitley now slept soundly under a plush blanket. He didn't even look his way. You just watched a man lose his seat, then watched the world shift behind him. Would you have stood up for him? Or would you wait until the system did? Tell us below. By the time Dr. Elias Monroe stepped into the back of the black government sedan waiting at the curb in Seattle, the entire airline industry had already shifted. They just didn't know it yet. The car door clicked shut softly. In the front seat sat a young agent from the Department of Transportation, tablet in hand, voice calm. Good evening, Dr. Monroe. Ethics Division is live on standby. Your report's been escalated, Tier 1 flag. Elias gave a small nod but said nothing. The city outside moved like nothing had happened, as if a black man hadn't just been removed from his first-class seat in silence, as if power hadn't just realigned itself mid-air. Did they confirm the crew list? Elias finally asked. Yes, sir. Lead flight attendant, Kelsey Danner. 10 years in, 3 prior complaints, 2 settled quietly, 1 still open. Elias let the silence sit between them for a moment. Start a cross-agency review. FAA, DOT, Civil Aviation Compliance. Loop them in by morning. The agent didn't question the command. The car pulled onto I-5, merging into the rhythm of traffic under the fading Seattle sun. Elias didn't look at the tablet. He didn't need to. The work had already begun. In Washington, D.C., 4 time zones ahead, red alerts blinked quietly across the Sky Shield Control Center. A small team of analysts monitored dozens of real-time dashboards, behavior maps, airline compliance grids, live data streams from every major airport in the country. Flight 611, the one that removed Elias, had triggered a Sky Shield Red event. But it wasn't the removal alone. Sky Shield worked like a nervous system. It didn't react to noise. It responded to patterns. That flight crew, their service history already showed a bias footprint. The airline? Aurelia Air had dodged 3 Sky Shield ethics audits in 2 years. Their board? One director had publicly called FAA's ethics framework overreach last fall. Sky Shield wasn't logging complaints. It was building cases. And tonight, it connected all the dots. Elias arrived at the FAA's Seattle regional office just after 6 o'clock p.m. A woman in a gray pantsuit was waiting by the service elevator. Dr. Monroe, she greeted. Lauren Shea, Deputy Director, Passenger Rights Division. We flew in right after your alert. We've seen the clip. Elias didn't offer small talk. How far has it spread? 2 TikTok accounts, 1 aviation subreddit. Still under 1 million views, but it's climbing fast. Let it grow. Lauren looked up. You're not trying to contain this? No, Elias said flatly. I'm giving the system time to watch itself burn. Across the country in Denver, Richard Whitley, the man who took Elias's seat, was laughing over bourbon at a rooftop bar. He had no idea what had been set in motion. No idea that his name, voice, and travel logs had already been pulled into 3 open civil complaints from previous flights. No idea that SkyShield had linked him to a pattern of preferential treatment. White male executives bumped to first class while others were quietly reassigned. No idea that his entire consulting firm's aviation contracts were now under review. To Whitley, what happened on Flight 611 was just another perk. To Elias, it was fuel. Inside the FAA's command hub in D.C., staff had one name on repeat: Elias Monroe. He wasn't a political appointee. He wasn't a face on cable news. He was the one who built the very protocol now circling Aurelia Air like a tightening net. "Have we notified the 12?" one staffer asked. "The airports," another replied. "Yes, Logan, O'Hare, LAX, ATL, JFK, they're already flagging every Aurelia flight for ethics level review." The room went still. This wasn't just a suspension. This was operational suffocation. Back in Seattle, Elias reviewed the rolling data on a tablet. Flight crew behavior indexes, public sentiment spikes, ethics compliance gaps, risk exposure to IPO. "You do realize," Lauren said carefully, "if this expands, Aurelia Air's market valuation will tank. Their IPO window will collapse." Elias didn't blink. They didn't just bump a passenger, they devalued their own integrity. That costs more than stock. He looked up at her. "They gambled I was just another tired black man in a suit." And they lost. That night at 10:12 p.m. EST, a secure call was placed between the FAA administrator, DOT Ethics Oversight, and members of the Congressional Aviation Subcommittee. Elias presented data, not emotion. "This is not about a bad seat," he told them. "This is about an industry that has quietly protected behavioral bias for decades. If we allow this one to pass, we signal that ethics are optional, that equity is theater." He paused. "I didn't build SkyShield for PR. I built it to be a firewall." By 2:00 a.m., the FAA issued a confidential directive. All active airlines would undergo immediate SkyShield Ethics Index audits. 12 of the largest airports in the U.S. were cleared to pause approval of any flight flagged for bias-based seating reassignment or unequal in-flight service. Aurelia Air was on top of the list. At 4:37 a.m. Eastern, an Aurelia flight arriving into Atlanta was held at the gate. FAA compliance officers boarded. No arrest, no shouting. Just quiet authority, asking for seating logs and crew transcripts. By 6:00 a.m., another flight into Logan International was grounded for 30 minutes for an impromptu compliance check. Behind every clipboard was a quiet shadow: Elias Monroe. And then came the viral moment. The clip from 2C, the one that captured the moment Elias stood up without a word and walked to 8C, broke 2.1 million views by sunrise. The comment section told the real story. He got moved from first class, then grounded the industry. That wasn't a passenger. That was a system architect. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He just made a call, and airports started blinking red. At 7:08 a.m., the President's Chief of Staff called the FAA administrator. "What the hell is SkyShield? And why are 4 airlines calling my office?" The answer came cool and sharp. "It's the system Dr. Monroe warned them about, and they didn't listen." Back in his hotel room, Elias stood at the window with a black coffee in hand. The sun rose over Puget Sound like it always did. Calm. Inevitable. He didn't need to turn on the TV. He already knew what every anchor would be leading with, and he wasn't done, not even close. At exactly 8:02 a.m. Eastern Time, Flight 1449 from Miami began its final descent into JFK. From the outside, it was a routine arrival. Blue skies, a slight tailwind, and a packed business class cabin. Most passengers were corporate professionals heading to Manhattan. But the flight crew had just received a notification that changed everything. FAA priority alert. Hold plane at gate. Do not disembark passengers. Ethics team en route. Captain Reyes read the message twice before looking at his co-pilot. This has never happened before. No clue what it means, the first officer replied, scanning the cockpit display. We're clean on fuel, right? We're good, but I've got a bad feeling. They had reason to worry. What neither of them knew was that this wasn't a random audit. It was targeted. A Sky Shield flag had been triggered before the wheels even touched the runway. At Gate 38B in JFK's Terminal 5, 3 FAA officers stood waiting. No uniforms, no press. Just plainclothes professionals holding iPads, watching the monitor as Flight 1449 taxied toward them. One of the agents, Valerie Torres, turned to her partner. "We sure it's the same flight attendant?" "Confirmed. Kelsey Danner. She's pulled this move before." "And the passenger?" "Barbara Cheney, black, mid-30s. Engineer, paid full fare for business class. Got reassigned during boarding, no explanation." Valerie raised an eyebrow. "Who replaced her seat?" "Richard Bentley, white male. Listed in the Airlines preferred investors circle. No record of purchase. Was upgraded last minute." She exhaled. "This is just like Monroe's case." "Exactly," her partner replied. "Only this time, Sky Shield caught it in real time." Inside the aircraft, Barbara Cheney sat in seat 14B, confused and slightly humiliated. She had booked 4D weeks in advance, confirmed it twice at the kiosk. But during boarding, the gate agent whispered something to the flight crew, and the flight attendant gave her a tight smile. "We've had to move a few things around, ma'am. Thank you for your flexibility." That was it. No apology, no compensation. Just a new boarding pass and the weight of silence pressing down. Now, with the plane idle at the gate, passengers stirred. The captain's voice came on. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a short procedural delay. Please remain seated." Barbara pulled out her phone to check for updates, but instead, she saw something unexpected. A notification. "Would you like to report your boarding experience to Sky Shield?" Her finger hovered. Then she tapped yes. The form opened. She wrote, "I was moved from business class without explanation. The crew made me feel like I didn't belong there." She hit submit. 5 minutes later, an FAA agent quietly stepped onto the plane. "Ms. Barbara Cheney," Valerie said, standing near row 14. "Would you be willing to speak with us for a few minutes?" Barbara blinked. "Am I in trouble?" "Not at all. You've done nothing wrong. We just want to understand what happened today." Passengers were now whispering. A few phones came out, recording discreetly, but there was no scene, no shouting. Barbara stood up, gathered her bag, and walked off the plane with the agents. In a quiet room near the gate, Barbara sat across from the FAA team. They listened as she described the reassignment, the tone of the flight attendant, and the lack of transparency. "We appreciate your honesty," Valerie said gently. "We want you to know this isn't isolated. There's a pattern, one we're actively investigating." Barbara looked stunned. "I thought I was just overthinking it." "You weren't, and you're not alone." They handed her a copy of her original seat assignment, along with an official acknowledgement letter. Then they gave her something else, a sense that someone, finally, believed her. Meanwhile, back in Washington, D.C., Elias Monroe watched the report come in on a secure feed from the FAA Command Center. "Second verified instance within a week," Lauren Shea said, placing a file on the desk. "Same flight attendant, same displacement tactic, same profile of the victim. And same quiet cover-up," Elias muttered. He didn't need more data. He needed precedent. He turned to the ethics attorney beside him. "Can I activate Directive 4? "You've got the authority," she said, "and the backing. Everyone's watching now." Elias stood. "Then it's time to take them off autopilot." By 10:30 a.m., the FAA released an industry-wide directive. Effective immediately, any airline found engaging in non-transparent, discriminatory seat reassignments will face an operational ethics freeze at all Sky Shield partnered airports. Suspensions include gate access, boarding slot priority, and code-sharing privileges pending review. Within an hour, Aurelia Air's stock dropped 5.3%. By lunch, 2 other airlines self-reported suspicious boarding activity to avoid audit. By sunset, SkyShield became the top trending topic across multiple platforms. Social media exploded. He made one call, and now the whole system's on trial. This isn't about seats. It's about who gets to feel like they belong. Dr. Monroe isn't asking for change. He's coding it. News anchors were scrambling to catch up. Passengers started uploading their own stories, tagging #SkyShield. And Barbara? She went viral, but not for being dramatic, for being dignified. A photo of her stepping off the plane, calm but composed, became a symbol. The caption read, "She didn't raise her voice, but her seat still shook the industry." That evening, Elias sat alone on a bench overlooking the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. He didn't smile. He never did during moments like this. But inside, something shifted. Not victory, just clarity. For years, the industry had believed discrimination only existed when someone screamed or filed lawsuits. But Elias had taught them something new. Bias can whisper too. And now the system had no choice but to listen. The room had no name on the door. Just a silver badge that read, "Restricted Access, Ethics and Compliance." It sat tucked behind the Department of Transportation's southeast wing, down a silent hallway that even most federal employees ignored. No windows, no waiting area. Just one room, thick with the kind of air that made people sit up straighter. Inside, a table shaped like a crescent moon was already half full. Aurelia Ayres, Chief Legal Officer, 2 FAA regional directors, a compliance strategist from SkyShield, and in the center seat, Elias Monroe. He wasn't dressed to impress, just a navy suit, open collar, no tie. But there was something about how he sat that made the rest of the room feel like they'd already lost. He didn't posture. He observed. Lauren Shea stepped in with a notepad and a stack of sealed folders. "All key parties are present," she said. "We may proceed." Elias leaned forward. "Let the record show this is a compliance arbitration under Directive SC-9, authorized by the Ethics Oversight Division. The topic, pattern-based discriminatory seat reassignment and its operational consequences under SkyShield." He paused. "Let's begin." What followed wasn't loud. It was precise. Lauren pulled up a screen showing internal SkyShield data, flagged incidents, algorithmic behavior patterns, cross-referenced crew IDs. There were 5 confirmed instances where black passengers were quietly moved or denied seats in favor of higher-tier white passengers who hadn't paid for upgrades. In each case, the same crew member was involved, Kelsey Danner. The screen zoomed in on timestamps and boarding gate data, facial recognition logs, seating manifest overrides, voice logs. No one could look away. The attorney from Aurelia Air cleared his throat. "This is highly irregular. Our staff were following company protocol?" Elias asked, looking straight at him. "Or gut instinct about who looks like they belong in first class?" The man fumbled. "With respect, sir, these were isolated." "They weren't isolated," Lauren said flatly. "They were invisible. Until now." The FAA director spoke next. "We've reviewed passenger feedback from over 200 flagged flights across 4 carriers. SkyShield identified not only individual behavior, but also systemic patterns embedded in your upgrade algorithms." The second director added, "In other words, your system rewards discrimination disguised as loyalty metrics. You're calling it optimization. But it's bias, coded bias." The room went still. Elias didn't raise his voice. He just slid a document across the table. "Effective immediately, SkyShield will no longer certify ethics clearance for Aurelia Air, nor any of its partner carriers, pending full audit and compliance retraining." The Aurelia attorney's eyes widened. "You can't be serious. That affects our access to 12 major airports," Elias said. "You're losing them, starting today." The man stood halfway, flustered. "This is an overreach. We demand review." "You'll get one," Elias said calmly, "after you rebuild from scratch." Outside the room, news hadn't broken yet. But inside SkyShield's back-end server, every partner airline just received a live notification. SkyShield status update. Ethics certification suspended. Gate access limited. Reason: pattern discrimination. Remediation plan required. 3 other airlines, none of whom were in the room, began scrambling their PR teams. Because if SkyShield could flag Aurelia, they knew they might be next. And Elias Monroe had just made the first move. Later that afternoon, Elias walked through the DOT lobby. Reporters were camped outside, but he exited through a staff door unnoticed. He didn't care for flash. His game had always been long-term. Systems, structure, consequence. Lauren caught up to him. "That was a clean hit," she said, matching his stride. "You've just set a precedent." Elias nodded. "Good, but it's not enough. What's next?" "We publish the data. Public dashboard. Passenger accessible." Lauren slowed. "Are you sure?" "If we're going to build trust, transparency is the only way." She didn't argue. Meanwhile, on the 48th floor of a glass tower in Manhattan, the CEO of Aurelia Air slammed his phone down. "Why didn't anyone tell me Monroe had this much power?" His VP of operations looked pale. "We didn't know SkyShield had real-time authority. We thought it was just a reporting tool." "Well, now it's a guillotine." The board called an emergency session that night. Investors threatened to pull funding. One hedge fund manager asked outright, "How do you expect us to believe your leadership when a black man with no badge just grounded your entire first-class program?" The CEO didn't answer, because there was no good answer. Back in D.C., Elias sat in his office, watching the sun dip below the Potomac. He didn't drink, didn't celebrate, but he did allow himself a moment to remember all the times he had been downgraded, all the times a flight attendant had looked at him sideways, assuming the suit was borrowed, the seat misassigned, all the times he hadn't spoken up, until now. Because now, the system spoke for him. On social media, things were moving fast. Passengers began checking their boarding history against SkyShield's pattern tool. One viral post read, "Checked my March flight. Yep, I was 3A, then suddenly moved to row 12 for weight balance. Guess who took my seat?" Yeah, not a coincidence. SkyShield's website saw a 400% spike in activity. Commentators called it the airline reckoning. Civil rights groups praised the move. Even political figures on both sides acknowledged what Elias had forced into the open. That discrimination today isn't always a slap or a shout. It's a quiet rearrangement. A smile with teeth. And now, thanks to SkyShield, it was no longer quiet. At midnight, Elias received a message from Barbara Cheney. It simply read, "Thank you for believing me. I thought I was just being paranoid. Turns out, I wasn't." He replied, "You weren't. And you helped more people than you know." Then he shut off the screen and sat still. Not because he was tired, but because he was just getting started. It started with a tweet, just 10 words, typed quietly from a kitchen table in Charlotte, North Carolina. "They moved me from first class. Said I looked confused." No hashtags, no mention of SkyShield, but within 20 minutes, it had 8,000 likes. 30 minutes later, someone quote-tweeted it with a screenshot of SkyShield's new passenger report tool. "You can check if your flight was flagged." I did. It was. That's when it broke open. By lunchtime, SkyShield's site crashed twice from user traffic. People from Atlanta, Detroit, Oakland, Newark, city after city, started uploading photos of their old boarding passes. Some even had receipts with seat assignments circled in red ink. Others shared screenshots from airline apps that showed pre-flight confirmations mysteriously replaced with downgraded seats at the last minute. One post read, "Funny how I always get moved to row 11 after checking in for 2A. Thought it was just bad luck. Turns out it had a name. Kelsey." Another, "I'm a doctor. I booked first for a reason. The attendant smiled when she told me I'd been moved. Smiled like she knew I wouldn't fight back." The replies poured in. Same here. Same airline. Same gate. Same damn flight attendant. The thread got so big, it trended under the name #Row 12 Club. It wasn't a joke. It was a movement. Meanwhile, in a cramped media office in Washington, D.C., an investigative journalist named Marcus Dill had been tracking these stories for weeks. He'd first caught wind of SkyShield's activation through FAA internal chatter, but now, with a full-blown passenger rebellion on his screen, he knew it was time. He called his editor. "I need front page, Sunday." The editor hesitated. "We don't do airline fluff." "This isn't fluff. It's structural discrimination with receipts, digital paper trails, passenger reports, FAA backing." The silence on the other end was brief, but final. "You've got 2,000 words. Make it sting." At SkyShield HQ, Lauren Shea walked briskly into Elias's office. She didn't knock, just held out a tablet. "They're coming forward. Dozens. Maybe hundreds." Elias read the names, the flights, the patterns. Some he already knew. Some surprised him. There were veterans, nurses, federal judges, a retired congresswoman. All of them had sat quietly when moved. All of them were speaking now. "Do we publish the database early?" Lauren asked. Elias didn't look up. "We let them speak first. Their voices are more powerful than ours." She nodded. That night, national media finally caught on. ABC led with "Airline algorithms or racial redlining." NBC followed. "The quiet cost of preferred boarding. Who gets moved and why?" CNN. Exclusive. Airline whistleblowers break silence amid SkyShield fallout. One former flight attendant came forward anonymously. "It wasn't policy, but it was understood. If a platinum-tier passenger looked uncomfortable near someone, we were told to fix it discreetly. That meant moving the black passenger. Always." Another admitted she'd been reprimanded for not following the seating optics memo. The anchor paused before adding, "Aurelia Air has declined to comment." But the damage was already done. Back in Charlotte, the woman who sent the first tweet, her name was Tanya, received a message from a stranger, a young girl. 17, she wrote, "I showed your tweet to my mom. She cried, said it happened to her too, on the way to her dad's funeral. She never talked about it." Tanya didn't reply right away. She just stared at the screen, then whispered, "They really thought we'd stay quiet forever." In New York, at a SkyShield listening session, a small theater filled with 60 passengers. Each had come after receiving a direct email invitation. They weren't influencers. They weren't VIPs. They were people who had lived the silence. The host stood at the front with a single prompt on the wall. "Tell us what happened and how it made you feel." One by one they stood. A retired Navy officer, a teacher from Kansas City, a grandmother from Oakland. The same words kept coming back. "I felt invisible. I didn't want to cause a scene. I blamed myself. I stayed quiet because I didn't want to be that person." By the end of the session, there were tears, not of anger, but of recognition. The next day, Elias received a call. It wasn't from the FAA. It wasn't from the press. It was from Richard Lane, chairman of the Transportation Oversight Committee. "Dr. Monroe, we're convening a hearing." "I see. We'd like you to testify, not about SkyShield's tech, about its necessity." Elias took a breath. "I'll be there." That evening, Elias stood on the balcony of his apartment, watching the lights of D.C. shimmer under the fading sky. Lauren joined him, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "They're calling it a reckoning," she said softly. He didn't respond at first, just watched a plane arc across the horizon. "They'll try to spin it," he said finally. "Call it reverse discrimination, overreach, disruption. And what will you call it?" He looked at her. "Balance." In Oakland, a woman named Renetta held her 8-year-old grandson's hand as she showed him an article on her phone. "That's me," she said, pointing to a headline. "Passengers' quiet protest helped trigger national airline audit." "You?" he asked. eyes wide. Yep, they didn't want me in that seat, but I sat down anyway. He looked at her differently, not like she was old, but like she was brave. By the end of the week, over 1,300 stories had been submitted to SkyShield's public archive. Each one a thread in a larger tapestry. A tapestry that revealed something not new, but newly undeniable. That some people pay full price, but are still asked to prove they belong. And now, for the first time, they weren't being asked to prove anything. The hallway outside room 2141 of the Rayburn House office building was uncharacteristically silent for a Wednesday morning. No press shoving mics, no protesters with signs. Just stillness. Inside, under the soft hum of recessed lighting, the Congressional Subcommittee on Transportation Ethics prepared for testimony. 3 rows of chairs lined one side. C-SPAN cameras stood at attention like quiet sentinels. On the dais sat 7 representatives, 5 men, 2 women, all watching the door. Then it opened, and Elias Monroe walked in. No entourage, no lawyer, no slides, just him. Dark suit, crisp shirt, and a manila folder tucked under his arm. He took his seat alone at the witness table. A subtle ripple moved through the room. Congresswoman Maria Reyes, chair of the subcommittee, tapped her mic. This hearing will come to order. Our topic today, passenger discrimination in commercial aviation and the role of independent audit systems in identifying unethical conduct. She turned to Elias. Dr. Monroe, we thank you for appearing today. You may begin your statement. Elias nodded once, then opened the folder. I won't use prepared remarks, he said. Instead, I'd like to share 3 facts, 1 story, and 1 question. He paused. The room leaned in. Fact 1, Elias began. Over 7,400 passengers have submitted verified complaints to SkyShield in the last 10 days. 89% involve seat reassignments that disproportionately affected people of color, most of them black. He let that settle. Fact 2. Of the top 25 flight attendants most frequently cited in those cases, 18 were involved in incidents where a white passenger was promoted to first class without upgrade payment, while a black passenger with a confirmed seat was removed. A few murmurs from the press box. Fact 3. At least 3 carriers maintained internal language referring to comfort optimization, a term used to justify changes in seating based on visual or subjective bias. He looked up. These were not accidents. They were instructions, wrapped in politeness. Then Elias held up a laminated boarding pass. Now, the story, he said. This was mine. Flight 701, JFK to San Francisco. I was in 2A, until I wasn't. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. An attendant told me there was a mix-up. A white man, no boarding pass, no ID, was moved into my seat. I was told to go to row 18. I asked why. She smiled and said, "It just works out better this way." The committee was silent. She didn't yell. She didn't curse. She just assumed no one would question it, least of all me. He placed the boarding pass down, slowly. That assumption is what SkyShield exists to measure. Congressman Wilkes, a skeptical moderate, leaned forward. Dr. Monroe, your system, SkyShield. Some say it's invasive. Facial recognition, behavior tracking. Isn't that just more surveillance under a different name? Elias nodded thoughtfully. Surveillance without consent is control, he said. But transparency with accountability is safety. Wilkes frowned. Elias continued. SkyShield doesn't store facial images. It logs patterns, timestamps, overrides, repeat behaviors. It's not watching people. It's watching systems that decide who gets treated as human. Another silence, this time heavier. Congresswoman Reyes picked up the thread. There are calls for federal funding to expand SkyShield. Are you willing to place the system under Department of Transportation oversight? Elias met her eyes. I am, but only if the data stays public. If the passengers can still check their stories against the system. If we don't bury the truth under red tape. A long pause. Then she nodded. Fair. Midway through the hearing, the committee introduced testimony from affected passengers. Barbara Cheney appeared via video call. Her voice trembled only slightly as she recounted her downgrade on Flight 304, her silent humiliation as a man was escorted to her seat without explanation. I didn't fight it, she said, because I didn't want to be that woman on the plane, but after what SkyShield showed me, I wish I had. Her camera cut out, but her words stayed. The final portion of the hearing was open to committee discussion. Representative Fields, a senior member with gray at his temples, leaned into the mic. I've been flying for 40 years, he said, back when smoking was allowed and overhead bins didn't exist. I've seen delays, turbulence, overbooking, but I've never seen anything expose the industry like what you've done, Dr. Monroe. He tapped a pen on the table. You've turned a mirror on us, and the reflection isn't pretty. He sighed. Maybe it's time we stopped calling it turbulence and started calling it what it is, inequity. As the hearing adjourned, no one clapped. No flashbulbs went off. But the moment was seismic. SkyShield was no longer a tech startup. It was now part of the national conversation. Outside, a reporter caught Elias briefly. Dr. Monroe, do you think the airlines will change? He looked up at the clouds, as if watching another plane arc west. Only if we keep showing them they can't fly above consequence. That night, in a quiet corner of Union Market, Elias sat across from Lauren, a half-finished cup of coffee between them. She pulled up the live feed on her phone. The hearing's gone viral. Elias just nodded. You okay? She asked. He thought for a long time, then said, when I was 15, my dad got bumped off a flight because someone needed the seat more. He didn't argue, just nodded and sat at the gate for 6 hours. I asked him why he didn't fight. He looked at her. He said, because fighting doesn't change a thing. Lauren waited. And now? She asked. Elias sipped his coffee. Now it does. 3 days after the congressional hearing, things started breaking in waves. The first wave came from Seabreeze Airways, a regional airline based out of Miami. Small, but connected to 3 major hubs. They issued a press release at 7:42 a.m. Effective immediately, Seabreeze Airways will partner with SkyShield to adopt the Passenger Ethics Index across all domestic flights. No one expected them to be the first. They weren't even mentioned in the hearings, but they knew which way the wind was blowing. By noon, 3 more airlines followed suit, some out of conviction, most out of fear. Executives were starting to panic quietly, because they understood something the public hadn't yet fully grasped. SkyShield wasn't just a watchdog. It was an infrastructure layer, built into the operating fabric of the skies, touching scheduling, crew assignments, upgrade protocols, and, most importantly, airport access. Without SkyShield compliance, you lost more than reputation. You lost clearance. At 2:14 p.m., the first major blow hit. Denver International Airport issued a joint memo with the FAA. As part of our ethical modernization initiative, DIA will now prioritize gate access based on SkyShield compliance scores. Carriers with substandard records may face delayed access or redirection penalties. That hit hard, because Denver's a connector. Lose Denver, and you lose half your West Coast traffic flow. And it wasn't just them. Within hours, Atlanta, Chicago Midway, and Seattle Tacoma followed suit. Then came the tremor everyone felt. LaGuardia. Meanwhile, Elias sat in a modest office on the 12th floor of a gray federal building, watching the dashboard light up. Red flags turned green. Hesitant airports began checking the certified box. Carrier names blinked yellow, then gray, then red again as updates pushed through. Lauren walked in with her tablet, eyebrows raised. Do you want the short version or the long one? Short, Elias said. She smiled grimly. SkyNova just had 5 flights rerouted mid-air because their ethics rating dropped below threshold. Passengers know. Not yet, but gate agents do. Elias turned to the window. Outside, planes moved like ants under the late afternoon sun. It's happening, he said. That evening, CNN breaking news ran the chyron. 4 airlines hit with Sky Shield penalties as airports shift compliance standards. In the studio, analysts debated, "This isn't just PR anymore, this is operational. Airlines are losing money in real time. If you're not Sky Shield certified, you can't guarantee gate access." One former CEO said bluntly, "This is like the TSA, but for morality." Online, the public caught on fast. A tweet with over 100,000 likes read, "This is wild. They really built a credit score for how airlines treat people." Another, "Sky Shield isn't cancel culture, it's consequence culture." And the passengers, they were watching. Every update, every reroute, every apology. Because now, for the first time in airline history, the system wasn't just tracking delays, it was tracking dignity. By Friday morning, 2 hedge funds began dumping stock in carriers with low Sky Shield ratings. Then a bigger shoe dropped. Elara Capital, a powerful institutional investor, released a public statement. "Our portfolio will no longer support airline groups that fail to meet industry ethics benchmarks as defined by the Passenger Ethics Index." Translation: billions in future fleet financing gone, just like that. Elias didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He just sat in a small room surrounded by a team of analysts, data engineers, and behavioral scientists, reviewing trends, fine-tuning triggers. "Seattle's requesting access to Phase 2 protocols," Lauren noted. "Approve," Elias said. "And Baltimore wants clearance to run local pilot tests using the new crew ethics evaluator." "Do it. Quietly." He turned the screen. "Also, push the update to the transparency portal. Public needs to see real-time ratings." Lauren hesitated. "Are you sure? That'll put heat on a lot of people." He looked her in the eye. "Good." Later that day, in an executive suite atop a Manhattan tower, the CEO of Sky Nova Airlines slammed his fist against a walnut desk. "This man, this nobody, is holding our industry hostage." His legal team didn't respond. Because they knew. Elias Monroe wasn't a nobody. He was the architect of the system their profits now depended on. Back in D.C., Elias walked through Union Station, unnoticed among commuters. He didn't need a motorcade, didn't want one. He just needed the work to hold, to endure beyond his name. He passed a teenage girl showing her mother something on her phone. "Look," the girl said. "This flight's green. That means the airline passed Sky Shield." The mother nodded. "Then we book it." He kept walking, but he smiled. At midnight, Sky Shield pushed a silent update to 17 partner airports. It read, "Ethics score threshold raised to 92%. Enforcement begins at 0600. No headlines, no alerts, just quiet policy. The kind that makes CEOs lose sleep and makes passengers sleep better." The call came in at 6:03 a.m., sharp. Not from legal, not from PR, from Donovan Clark, the CEO of Sky Nova Airlines himself. "Get me Elias Monroe, now." His assistant stammered something about schedules and protocol. "I don't care if he's on the moon," Clark snapped. "Get him on." At that exact moment, Elias was finishing his morning run along the Potomac, the air crisp, his mind clear. His phone buzzed once. Private number. He answered without breaking stride. "Monroe." The voice on the other end was taut, trying not to break. "This is Clark, Donovan Clark. We need to talk." Elias stopped by a bench and sat. "I'm listening." For a man who controlled fleets and billions, Clark sounded almost desperate. "We're hemorrhaging routes. Airports are shutting us out. Our ethics score dropped below 81% overnight." Elias waited. "We lost $130 million in partnerships this week. Our board wants to know how to stabilize. What do you need?" There it was. Not an apology. A negotiation. Elias exhaled slowly. "You want Sky Shield to restore your access?" Clark's voice jumped in. "Yes, exactly. We'll adopt the charter, issue the press release. Just tell me what you need." Elias stood up. "What I need," he said, is not PR, it's principle. At 9 a.m., the two men sat face to face in a secure conference room at SkyShield's federal office. No lawyers, no assistants, just Elias, Clark, and silence thick as concrete. Clark broke first. "I built this airline." "I know," Elias said calmly. "We carried 86 million passengers last year." "I saw. And yet, because of you, we can't land in Chicago without begging for clearance." Elias folded his hands. "You didn't lose access because of me, Mr. Clark. You lost it because of your choices." Clark leaned forward. "Look, you and I both know this system of yours. It's genius. Brutal, but genius. You built a moral firewall." He chuckled dryly. "But if we burn, we take a piece of the sky with us. You really want that?" Elias met his gaze. "I don't want anyone to burn. I want them to build differently." He opened a folder. Inside were 3 documents, a 14-page report of discriminatory patterns across SkyNova flights, a drafted apology, and formal admission of systemic bias, a binding agreement to place all crew through SkyShield's training and evaluation index for 24 months. Clark stared. "You want me to sign a confession?" "I want you to sign a correction." The tension stretched. Then Clark reached for the pen, paused, then signed. The air didn't shift. No crowd erupted. No camera flashed. But something had changed. Not the ink. The balance. At 11:42 a.m., SkyShield's dashboard updated SkyNova's compliance status to provisionally certified. At 11:43 a.m., O'Hare reopened gate access. At 11:45, Elias received a short text from Lauren. He signed. He replied, "And now we watch." What Clark didn't know yet was that the document he just signed also triggered a cascade update across 4 federal departments. It wasn't just about his airline anymore. SkyShield had been working for months to get the ethics clause into federal vendor contracts for transportation grants. And with SkyNova's signature, the clause became binding precedent, meaning every airline receiving federal support would now be held to the SkyShield standard. Overnight, an industry became accountable. Across the country, other CEOs scrambled. Some panicked, some prepared. One texted a peer, "Did you hear Clark caved?" Another replied, "Not caved, got cornered." A third, "That man didn't bring a press kit, he brought a new rule book." That afternoon, Elias walked through the SkyShield floor. He stopped at Lauren's desk. "Update the charter," he said. She blinked. "To say what?" He looked out the window. "Ethics compliance is no longer optional, it's operational. Make that the opening line." Later that evening, news broke on multiple outlets. CNN's headline read, "SkyNova signs groundbreaking ethics accord with SkyShield." NBC, "Power shift, CEO bows to passenger justice system." Telltale's community posted, "One call, one signature, the whole sky just changed." Another, "This isn't revenge, it's repair." And under it, someone wrote, "You don't belong in first class." He showed them he owns the runway. In a small home in Tulsa, a retired teacher named Judith leaned back from her laptop. She had followed the story all week. When SkyNova posted their public apology, she read every word. Her eyes welled up as she remembered a flight 3 years ago. Row 2. Ticket reassigned. No explanation. That day, she cried quietly in the restroom. Today, she closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you for not letting them pretend. It never happened." Back in D.C., as night settled, Elias sat by his window, sipping mint tea. No celebration, no speeches, just stillness. Lauren texted, "Was it worth the call?" He smiled faintly, typed back, "The call wasn't the point." What it unleashed was. It started with a hashtag, SkyShield Standard. At first, it trended on aviation blogs and niche policy forums. Then it hit Reddit, then TikTok, then the news. Not as a scandal, but as a blueprint. A video surfaced, a young black woman boarding a flight in Phoenix. The gate agent stops her, but quickly checks a screen, nods, and gestures her forward. Caption: "That screen just saved me from being bumped for seat rebalancing. Sky Shield for the win." It hit 2.4 million views in 2 days. People weren't just posting their pain anymore. They were posting their protection. Morning shows ran segments titled, "What is Sky Shield and Why Your Next Flight Depends on It?" How a quiet CEO changed the skies without saying a word. Passengers now have receipts, and airlines know it. By Thursday, even Good Morning America brought on a former flight attendant. She said, "This isn't about fear, it's about fairness. And honestly, it's overdue." The hosts nodded, because they all had stories too. Meanwhile, other industries were watching closely. The rideshare sector started asking, what would a Sky Shield look like for us? Hospitality chains whispered about internal ethics dashboards. A logistics startup in Seattle launched Truck Ethic, citing Elias Monroe in their launch press. And public schools? One superintendent in Ohio reached out to Sky Shield directly. "We have thousands of students of color," she said. "If you can track fairness at 30,000 feet, can we do the same in our classrooms?" Elias's response was simple: "Let's talk." At Sky Shield HQ, a whiteboard quickly filled up with logos of companies requesting consultations, not for publicity, but for architecture, because everyone suddenly realized it's not the bad press they feared, it's the visible pattern, and Elias had given them the tools to expose it. In a quiet cafe near DuPont Circle, a group of former passengers gathered. Barbara Cheney was there. So was a retired Army sergeant, and an entrepreneur who once got strip-searched over a random flag. They didn't yell. They just compared notes. "I haven't had to explain my ticket to anyone in 4 weeks," one woman said. "Gate agents actually look nervous now when they override," said another. "It's like dignity has a digital receipt," someone whispered. Heads nodded all around. By week's end, PBS NewsHour ran a rare editorial segment. The host turned to the camera and said plainly, "The system didn't change because people screamed. It changed because one man built a mirror. And quietly, we saw ourselves." They showed a shot of Elias testifying. No music, no dramatic zoom, just the stillness of a man sitting with facts, and the world listening. Not everyone was cheering. Some in the aviation industry grumbled about overcorrection. One anonymous executive said, "So now one awkward moment and we get blacklisted?" To which a reply went viral. No, not one awkward moment. Repeated patterns, documented behavior, welcome to accountability. On a Southwest flight from Austin to Oakland, the captain made an announcement before takeoff. "Ladies and gentlemen, this aircraft is Sky Shield compliant. If you see something that feels unjust, say it. We're here to fly with fairness." The cabin applauded. It wasn't theater. It was relief. In Harlem, a high school classroom played clips from the hearing. One student raised his hand. "So, he didn't yell or sue?" "Nope," the teacher said. "He built something better." "Dang," the kid said, grinning. "That's cold-blooded power right there." Laughter, but with respect. That night, Elias sat alone in his apartment. No champagne, just a couch, soft jazz, and a glowing dashboard screen. He scrolled through. 47 airports now using Sky Shield as onboarding standard. 92% passenger trust rating. 3 new industries requesting consultation. Lauren texted, "You seeing this? You broke the silence chain." He typed back, "Didn't break it, gave it volume." At 1:12 a.m., Elias got a quiet ping from a confidential line. It was from a senator's office. Subject line, "Request for Sky Shield integration into federal travel contracts. Early draft attached." He opened it, read it once, then twice, then let out a slow breath. The sky had shifted. and the system followed. The city was quieter than usual. Maybe it was the fall air. Maybe it was just Elias. He liked walking late, long after DC shut down. No press, no meetings, just the sound of his shoes against pavement and the rhythm of things settling. He didn't wear a suit tonight, just a navy jacket, hands in pockets, and that same still posture that made people either respect him or not see him at all, which was exactly how he liked it. He turned onto 17th and passed a small corner cafe. The lights were still on. A group of college students sat by the window, laughing, sipping lattes, flipping through their phones. He caught a word, Sky Shield, and slowed down. "Wait," one girl said. "You didn't hear? They denied that woman a seat, but because of Sky Shield, she got rerouted and upgraded. No fuss, just handled." "That's wild," another said. "Honestly, I fly different now. I feel seen." Elias didn't stop, but something in his chest shifted, just slightly. A few blocks later, near the park, he saw an elderly man sitting alone on a bench. Gray beard, veteran's cap. Elias nodded politely as he passed, but the man looked up. "You him?" he asked. Elias paused. "Depends on who him is." The old man chuckled. "Didn't mean to spook you. Just recognize the walk, the way you don't look down at nobody." Elias stepped closer. "I'm Elias." The man stood, slow but steady. "Name's Roy, USMC retired. I don't say this much, but thank you." Elias raised an eyebrow. "For what?" Roy held up his phone. On it, an email thread with a major airlines ethics department. His name, his complaint. A timestamp. "They fixed it," Roy said. "Didn't erase it, didn't gaslight me. They fixed it. First time in 62 years I felt heard without shouting." They stood in silence, and then Roy extended his hand. "I ain't much for politics, but Sky Shield, that ain't politics. That's structure." Elias shook his hand. "I built the structure, but it only works because people like you step into it." He moved on. By now, the streets were almost empty, until he heard running footsteps. "Excuse me, sir, wait." A young woman, maybe late 20s, caught up to him, her coat half-zipped, breath sharp. "You're him, right? Elias Monroe?" He hesitated, then nodded. She laughed nervously. "Sorry, I know this is weird. I had to say something. My younger brother, he's autistic. We had an incident last year. Flight crew treated him like a threat, almost got him removed." Elias listened, quiet. "But this year," she continued, "different airline, different story, same quirks, same pacing. But this time, the attendant pulled me aside before takeoff." She teared up. She said, "I've been Sky Shield trained. Don't worry, we got you." Elias's throat tightened. "I don't know what kind of magic you built," the woman whispered, "but you changed how my family travels." He didn't know what to say, so he just placed a hand over his heart and nodded. A block later, he stopped to buy tea from a 24-hour food truck. The vendor, a tall guy with thick glasses, recognized him immediately. "Yo," he said. "No way. You're Elias." Elias smiled. "Guilty." The vendor poured the tea. "My sister works TSA. She said since Sky Shield went live, they've been retrained top to bottom. She says the new system makes it harder for bias to hide behind random checks. Said she finally feels like she's enforcing rules, not prejudice." He handed over the cup. "This one's on the house." Elias took his time walking back. The monuments glowed in the distance, all polished marble and stoic faces. But the real legacy? It wasn't carved in stone. It was in motion, in data streams and gate agent terminals, in changed behavior and documented patterns, in that soft smile from the mother who didn't have to explain her child anymore, in the firm handshake from a veteran who'd seen too much to believe in systems until now. At midnight, Elias arrived home. The apartment was dark, quiet, just the way he liked it. He opened his laptop. Notifications lit up like stars. A public school in Detroit requesting Sky Shield protocol assistance. A hospital in New Orleans asking about patient equity tracking. A major rideshare app requesting a pilot program. He didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, he opened a private dashboard. Passenger impact feed. Unfiltered. Messages from real people. Not curated, not polished, just truth. He scrolled. Today, my flight attendant saw my hijab and smiled. First time I didn't brace myself. Thank you. I used to fly with headphones just to block out being ignored. Now, I'm greeted by name. Thank you. They didn't know I was deaf, but they asked, before assuming. First time, ever. Thank you. He closed the laptop, sat back, let the silence be a mirror. Down below, the city buzzed in small, invisible ways. Not because someone was yelling, but because one man built a system loud enough to carry without a voice. And in that quiet, across airports, terminals, screens, and hearts, people knew. Something had shifted, not just policy, but the way they expected to be treated. And that expectation would never be lowered again. Elias hadn't been back to Terminal 6 in almost a year. Not since that morning. Not since he'd been pulled aside, reassigned, removed. It wasn't about the seat. It never was. It was the way they looked at him, like he didn't belong. Now, he stood at the same entrance. Same polished floors, same artificial breeze, same scent of overpriced coffee and jet fuel. But something felt different. Not louder, just aligned. He wasn't traveling for business today. No board meeting, no hearing, just a short domestic flight. Quiet, no entourage. He wore a simple black coat, no briefcase. Just a backpack and a boarding pass. Gate B14, first class. This time, no upgrade. No favors. He'd bought the ticket, like anyone else. As he approached the check-in kiosk, an agent, young, maybe mid-20s, glanced up and smiled. "Morning, sir. Flying solo today?" Her tone was casual, professional, but warm. "Yes," Elias replied. "Just me. Got you right here. First class. You're all set." She scanned his ID, tapped a few keys, then paused. Her eyes flicked to her screen. A soft chime sounded. She looked up again. This time, her expression changed. Not with fear, not with recognition, but with respect. Not the performative kind. The kind that knows. "Thank you for flying with us, Mr. Monroe," she said, voice a little steadier. "We appreciate your work." He blinked, said nothing, just nodded. The line behind him moved, but something in his chest cracked open. Quietly. Security was fast, polite. No extra scanning. No unnecessary questions. When he reached the gate, a young staffer stood holding a tablet. She glanced up. Smile. "Mr. Monroe, we've made sure the cabin crew is briefed. You'll be in 2A. If there's anything you need, I'm right here." He nodded again. It wasn't the words, it was the ease of them, the absence of tension. He stepped onto the plane. Same aircraft type, same cream-colored aisle lighting. But as he entered, the lead flight attendant smiled, not forced, not theatrical. "Good morning, sir. First class to the left. Welcome aboard." That was it. No hesitation, no second glance, no pause to wonder if he was in the right section. Just welcome. He sat down in 2A, looked out the window, and for the first time in months, didn't feel the weight of watching, didn't feel the need to justify his seat. He was just a passenger, exactly as he was meant to be. A few minutes later, someone cleared their throat gently. He looked up. A flight attendant, not the lead, maybe second in command, stood there with a tray. "Would you prefer tea or water before takeoff, sir?" Tea, he said softly. She handed it over, but didn't leave. Instead, she hesitated. I know we're not supposed to get personal, she said, but I recognized your name on the manifest. He tilted his head. She lowered her voice. My brother's a baggage handler. Said after Sky Shield got implemented, he finally got protections for reporting racial profiling and inspections. She smiled. Not wide, just honest. So, thanks for making us feel seen. Then she walked away. No scene, no selfie, just truth. The plane took off, smooth, quiet. Elias leaned back in his seat, closed his eyes. The hum of engines filled the cabin. He thought back to that morning nearly a year ago. Same airline, same route. When a man had stared him down, demanded his seat. When staff had escorted him out like a problem. When he'd made that call, not out of anger, but principle. And now, he didn't need to speak, because the system did it for him. Somewhere over Missouri, a flight attendant passed by with warm towels. Elias caught a glimpse of her badge. Certified Sky Shield Ethics Protocol. 3 months ago, that wouldn't have existed. Now, it was part of every major carrier's onboarding process, a silent signature of change. When they landed, Elias didn't rush off. He waited, let others go first. He walked slowly back through the jet bridge, then into the terminal. Just as he turned the corner, he spotted a janitor wiping down a bench near the entrance. She looked up, then paused. Are you? Elias smiled. Yes, she laughed. Didn't think I'd ever see you in person. I try to stay out of the spotlight. She nodded. Well, I just wanted to say, they used to ignore my reports when passengers harassed me. Now, they log them, and they respond. Her voice grew steadier. I still mop floors, but now I matter. She held out a gloved hand. He shook it, then kept walking. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise. A new day. And as Elias stepped into the quiet air, the doors closed behind him. No applause, no announcement. Just the sound of systems working, because someone built them to protect. The city looked different from the 57th floor. Elias stood by the window, hands in his pockets, watching as traffic moved like veins of light across D.C. From this height, the chaos faded. No honking horns, no barking headlines, just the quiet geometry of a system, functioning. It had been 11 months since that flight, since that one call, since everything changed, not just for him, but for thousands of others who'd been quietly told they didn't belong. Now, the system didn't whisper that anymore. It kept receipts, and it remembered. Behind him, a flat screen glowed softly. No breaking news, no awards. Just one notification. FAA has officially certified Sky Shield as a baseline protocol for all commercial carriers, effective immediately. Elias exhaled, not with pride, with purpose. He poured himself a cup of black coffee and walked out onto the balcony. Cold wind, early light, the kind of silence only earned after a long fight fought without fists. Down below, somewhere in a taxi, a woman in a hijab sat without being asked for random checks. At a gate in Detroit, a black teen girl in oversized glasses was upgraded with a smile. No questions, no tension. In a hotel conference room, an HR executive presented a new equity training module based on Sky Shield's framework. None of them knew Elias. They didn't need to. The work was never about his name. It was about building something that wouldn't collapse when no one was watching. He thought back to his grandfather's words, spoken years ago in a one-bedroom house in Atlanta. Don't just raise your voice, son. Raise the standard. He hadn't just raised it. He'd institutionalized it. Later that afternoon, Elias received a letter in the mail, handwritten, no return address. Inside was a photo, an elderly woman, glasses, boarding a flight. Underneath, a single line. They didn't ask me twice this time. Thank you. No signature, just the message. He placed it gently in his drawer, with the others. He didn't keep trophies. He kept proof. In the hallway, his assistant knocked lightly. "Mr. Monroe, there's a request from the Department of Education. They're asking if SkyShield can be adapted for public schools, equity tracking." He smiled. "Tell them we'll send a draft." Then paused. "And make sure it's not just tech. Make it human." That night, Elias walked the city alone. No cameras, no press. He passed a mural near Union Market. Someone had painted a simple phrase in bold white letters. "Dignity is a system, not a favor." No artist's name. Just truth on a wall. He took a picture of it, not for posting, for remembering. Back home, he turned off the lights, sat by the window again. The city still pulsed. But this time, it didn't feel indifferent. It felt aware, like it knew someone had quietly pressed reset, not to erase what was broken, but to rebuild what was possible. He didn't want applause. He didn't want legacy. He wanted change that wouldn't need him to stand guard forever. And now, the system stood on its own, and justice, finally, flew on schedule. Have you ever experienced a moment when the system finally worked in your favor, quietly, without a fight? Tell us where you're watching from, and if a moment like this ever happened to you or someone you love.